And step off the limb. It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Welcome, everybody, to the Monthly Movie Dispatch. We get together every month and we talk about what movies we've seen, what we recommend, and what to avoid. What separates us from the other 100,000 other movie-related shows is that we're high school friends and have been doing this, discussing movies, for 15 years. We love talking film, and we'd be doing it even if no one was listening. I'm Nick Moffat. I'm here with Sean Bowlby.
Hello.
Brandon Bowlby.
Hey, guys.
And Derek.
Hi.
Anyway, we're going to get this episode started real quick. We have a bunch of movies to talk about. Right at the top, I just want to say that we are going to have a special episode in addition to this one. Me and Derek have been doing Horror Movie Month, where we've been watching one horror movie every single day. We're recording this on October 29th. Wait, is it the 20th or is it the 30th?
The 30th.
So, we should have one or two movies left. We're getting close to the end of the month, and we're going to do a whole special episode, a shorter but special episode on Horror Movie Month. Yeah, I think we just need to dive right into it. So, the first movie that we're going to talk about, Hold the Dark. So, Brandon, this is one that both me and you saw. What do you think?
So, this is Jeremy Saulnier's new movie, however you say his name.
I think that's
he's
right.
he's an awesome director. We've been following for a bit now. Director of Blue Ruin and the incredible horror film Green Room. This movie wasn't necessarily my favorite. I still saw his brilliance throughout this movie, and the mood was very unsettling, and there were definitely some standout scenes that he directed the shit out of. But I had kind of a hard time getting into it. I kind of gave this 2.5 stars, and I'm still looking forward to what he does next, but I don't know if I could really recommend this to too many people.
Oh, really? I didn't realize you didn't like it so much. Maybe I should have started with this one, jumped it right over to you, but I like this movie a lot. Jimmy Saulnier is a great director. Basically, it takes place in Alaska, and it's a very quiet, lonely movie with just a lot of shots of the wilderness and Alaskan sort of mythology and just eeriness and kind of weird, maybe supernatural, maybe just dark people sort of thing, and
Very looming.
Yeah, it was a very, very ominous movie. Very tonal, but also very slow because of that. I mean, what drew me to it, the first thing I want to say is that this movie just dumped right up on Netflix. It was on Netflix just overnight. I didn't even know it was going to be on there. So it was really exciting having a director that we like so much just, oh, wow, he has a new movie out today. This is great. And it definitely didn't have as much power as Blue Ruin or Green Room, but I just kept thinking, in terms of movies that take place in Alaska, I'd probably put in the top 5.
Was it a horror film?
I considered it part of Horror Movie Month, but
There's no scares in the movie,
right?
but it's just really dark.
It's it's very tonally dark and ominous and feeling frightful. But at the end of the day, it's probably more of a thriller. I probably shouldn't have counted it as much as I did. But I think it toes that line between horror, and the trailer made me think it was a horror. And then I watched it and I was like, I guess that was more of a thriller. But well, anyway, you can watch it for free. I would recommend it. It's called Hold the Dark. It's on Netflix right now. Brandon, you got another movie you wanted to bring up?
Okay, so it's a new movie I saw. It's a documentary called Free Solo by the same documentarian who did the film Meru, which is another really great climbing film. This film is one of the better documentaries I've seen in a while. I'm a little bit discovering about myself that I'm genuinely afraid of heights. And there's been some situations in the last couple of years where I've really gave myself anxiety. And I don't know if this made the movie even better, because what this movie did to me, I have never in my life felt this way before while seeing a film. I was squirming out of my chair, and it wasn't just me, like the entire audience in the theater was just gasping and on edge. The shots that these filmmakers get while following this guy who's doing a completely free solo climb, which has no ropes and no other people to help you. If you get stuck halfway up the mountain, you have to either climb down or finish your climb. No one's coming to get you. It is so fucking nerve-wracking to watch this film, and I just can't believe they did what they did, filming wise and climbing wise. And the story behind it is super interesting and well shot, leading up to the climb. And so I can't recommend this documentary enough. I wish everyone could have saw it in theaters. I know it's probably leaving at this point.
It's still in a few theaters in Seattle right now. I actually might see it. I wanted to go see it today, but
Nice.
might
Yes.
go see it tomorrow.
Can't recommend it enough to see in theaters. It's such a unique experience.
Yeah, fuck all that. I would never make it as a climber. But I'm not rock climbing. I've decided.
Yeah, I give this documentary 4.5 stars.
All right. So that's Free Solo. It's probably still in some theaters. Catch it while you can. So Derek, you got a movie.
Yeah, one of the first movies I watched this month, actually for Horror Movie Month, was the Strangers sequel, Strangers Pray at Night. I wanted to talk about this movie because it's for whatever reason, it's one of the movies that I have not stopped thinking about all month long. It's not a great movie. Like, I gave it 2.5 stars. I really want to rewatch it. I'll probably even raise it up. But what's really fascinating about this movie is they commit 100% to trying to mimic, but in a genuine way, the cinematography and stuff from older 70s slashers. And I noticed a lot later on when I watched Halloween and stuff. I could kind of see the kind of thing they were trying to do, which is a lot of cameras that aren't really moving but zooming in on different things. It's kind of hard to describe without just showing you what I'm talking about, but this movie really commits to it without doing what the trend in Hollywood is right now, which is making an 80s movie, So, I mean, if you know what the Strangers are, the whole point behind them as a slasher villain is that they're the most minimalistic thing imaginable. They don't run, they don't I mean, I guess they do run a little bit in this movie, but they're so minimalistic. They have no motive. They don't, nothing, there's nothing going on behind their mask. They're bored. And so they like to make people really squirmish until they stab them to death. I don't know. It's a weird movie, but it's one I could not stop thinking about. And it has a really great score too. And it's also the shortest movie I watched. I think it's only an hour, 20 minutes or something. That's with credits.
So that movie is Strangers Pray at Night, and I think it's available on Amazon Prime right now.
Yes.
So, Brandon, you had another movie.
Yeah, so I saw The Old Man and the Gun. I think I maybe watched this the day after we recorded our last podcast. So it seems like a long time ago now. But this is David Lowery's new film. It's also acclaimed Robert Redford's final film he'll ever be in. This is kind of his swan song. And this is a really simple, beautiful, nice movie. I pretty much enjoyed everything about it. I'm not necessarily running home shouting ecstatic about it, but it's such a pleasant, fun watch. And the performances are incredible. David Lowery's directing style is really beautiful and stands out at several moments throughout the movie. The movie's really breezy, hour and 40 minutes long. And I don't know, it's a great send-off to Robert Redford. It's a really memorable performance with him. So, yeah.
What is this movie about?
It is about a old man who likes to rob banks and has been doing it his whole life and never wants to stop. And he is like a very fun, kind gentleman while he does the robbing. So everyone likes him and talks about how nice he was afterwards to the police.
Okay. That does sound very, very nice and fun.
Yeah.
It's a kind of a heist movie, but like...
Yeah, it's a heist movie in like the simplest way.
Okay.
And it's about him and this like blossoming relationship at the end of his life.
Cool.
It's a great, quaint movie. Very highly recommended.
Cool. So that's The Old Man, the Gun. That's still in theaters now. I just checked, actually. It's playing in Marysville. So it's wide released right now. So
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
it's in a couple
Okay.
theaters around Seattle.
Glad it expanded.
yeah. So I wanted to bring up a movie called Slice. And unfortunately, this was a pretty big disappointment for me. I was pretty excited about this movie. It's a A24 release, and it stars Chance the Rapper, who's, I'm a big Chance fan, and a few other comedians and stuff, like Hannibal Buress is in it, and just a few other people. And it's about this. Basically, it takes place in this world where ghosts are real and they're living among us, just like people. They live in this town. There's like 40,000 of them, and there's someone is killing pizza delivery drivers. And to me, it just sounded like a really fun concept. And there's werewolves and witches. Chance the Rapper plays a werewolf, and so it's just like, okay, so supernatural stuff just happens, and it's just part of our world. And there's a mystery where someone is killing pizza delivery drivers. It just sounded like a fun jaunt of a horror movie, like a horror comedy that has has an edge to it. And I got really excited about the premise, and then it's free on Amazon Prime. So, it was like, oh yeah, cool, definitely. I'm really excited about this. And it was pretty bad. Like, it was like shockingly, like, it sets up they set the premise pretty well, but very quickly it's like it just is filmed like a Disney Channel original movie. Like, it just looks just sloppy and plain, and just like it just looks bad and like low budget, and just like nothing's happening. And then there's no tension throughout the movie either. Like, I know it's a horror comedy, but there still should be some tension. And it just there wasn't enough pizza. There wasn't enough of the murder mystery, and they quickly changed to this bigger, more epic plot that really just cut all the tension away. It turned out to be trash. And I mean, it was very short. It was like 80 minutes, but I don't know. I was pretty disappointed in this movie that could have had a really fun time. Unfortunately, there wasn't enough pizza, and I went home hungry. Brandon, what is your next movie?
Yeah, so another movie I saw is this documentary film called Minding the Gap. It's actually available right now streaming on Hulu, so that's pretty interesting. All these movies going up direct. This is probably going to be one of the better documentaries of the whole year. I give this 4.5 stars on Letterboxd. It's this young 20s filmmaker. I believe it's his first film. Him growing up with this group of 3 best friends in kind of middle nowhere suburbs, low income families. And he has and uses all this old archival footage of him and his friends skateboarding. He also follows them through their teenage years and into their early 20s and what they grew up to be and what they grew up to become, and has all this really intimate footage of his friends and also his friends' home life. This film is so honest. It takes a really brutal look at things like alcoholism and domestic violence and abuse that him and his friends had to go through growing up. And the amount of like sincere interviews that this director is able to get with his subjects is just unlike anything else you'll see. It's so captivating and really moving when you're actually seeing these people tell their stories. Underneath just the backdrop of them growing up and, shooting the shit and skateboarding and being really good at it, this being all of their passions. So, I mean, I highly recommend this movie. I think it's going to be one of the best documentaries of the year, and it's easy to find on Hulu.
You've got 2 documentaries this month as like best documentaries of the year. Yeah, I've heard all about this movie. I'm thinking about signing up for Hulu just to watch this movie, and maybe a few other movies, but like I don't have Hulu anymore, and I can't find another way to watch it. So, okay, so that one's Minding the Gap. It's exclusively on Hulu. Derek, what's your next movie?
My next movie is another movie from Horror Movie Month called Apostle. Have you guys seen The Raid Redemption?
No.
Okay. So this is Gareth Evans, the director of Raid Redemption and the the Raid 2. When those movies, well, I haven't seen the sequel, but the first one, when it was sold to me as like a guy at work was convinced that they were snuff films, like because the violence is so well done that it's very hard to even understand how they do it in those movies. Like it's just so violent, and he does a lot of really long takes, and so that's where I was introduced to him was during that movie. And then I remember there's this movie called VHS, and I think it was the sequel. He did a horror segment. It's the best part of the movie. It's really scary, terrifying, awesome one take like scene thing that they do. And so Apostle is his first full length horror film. It was released straight on Netflix this month, starring Dan Stevens and Michael Sheen. And it's a simple story. Pretty much this guy, they get a ransom note for his sister. It's part of a rich family, and so his father sends him to this island where these people are that sent him the ransom note to see if he can find her and try to get her out, ideally without paying the ransom. So that's kind of the plot of the movie. The reason why I set all that up is because this movie is, like, the violence in this movie is so shocking. I think, like, that is becoming Gareth Evans' like gimmick, is that they're like no one does violence the way he does it. It's just so graphic and unexpected and like in your face, and like it overstays its welcome every time. And this movie, it feels like that with every single kill in this movie. And yeah, I don't know, like I love this. This is probably going to be, I think it has a good chance of making it into my top 10 movies of the year. It's also just like a really beautiful set design. I don't really know. I'm guessing they just built like a little town to shoot it in, because it's really, just really well shot, really beautiful. And
Is it Indonesian, or at least is that where it takes place?
It doesn't take place there, so I don't believe so. Yeah, I'm really excited to see what this guy does going forward, because, like, I don't know, this was pretty impressive, and it's very different from, like, all of his other movies besides his short on VHS are, like, violent, fighting movies. Like, it's all, martial arts and stuff, and so this is a pretty big turn, and I don't think he misses a beat with it at all. It's scary. It's really fast. Like there's just a lot going on, and it doesn't ever slow down. And it's legitimately really scary at times. And I compare it to like The Witch, but I think The Witch is a lot more authentic. Like they spend a lot more time making it feel like it actually happened, in a real place. While this is a little more fantastical, but it's really great. You guys should all watch it.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this movie. I was trying to watch it before. I was trying to watch it as part of Horror Movie Month, and either way, I'm gonna watch it this year. But it looks great. Like the trailer's legitimately scary too.
Yeah.
So that was Apostle, and you can find it on Netflix. Hey Sean, how's it going over there?
It's going good.
Cool.
So yeah, I'm going to talk about the movie Mid '90s, which is Jonah Hill's directorial debut. It's about it's kind of a coming of age story about a young 13-year-old boy as he kind of befriends a new older group of people, kind of maybe 16, 17, 18 years old. And it's just kind of about him hanging out with them for a summer and all the stuff that they get into, and they kind of bring him into their world. It's honestly kind of a rough movie to watch. At least for me, it was kind of tough to watch in some parts. It was
Like, what do you mean by that?
like there's some just the kinds of things that this young, like he kind of looks like a baby, and he's doing all these very grown up things like getting into drinking and it's just like it's the things that he's exposed to from this new group of friends it's kind of hard to watch such a young kid get into those kind of things. But it's a really interesting movie, and how it portrays that part of this kid's life. It's a very honest movie. A lot of the dialogue is so well done, and it feels so authentic to how kids talk. Like they're talking about very adult, complex ideas, but they're speaking about them like they're little kids. Like they don't, the way that they talk about it, it's very authentic for their age. But one really interesting thing, what I recommend people do is actually watch this movie and the movie Eighth Grade, which came out earlier this year as a double feature, because there's a lot of really interesting overlap in the two movies, and in some of the subjects that they talk about. But also a lot of these two movies treat that subject matter in very different ways, and it's I've kind of talked a little bit about it with Kelly, and there's some really interesting conversations to be had in comparing those two movies. Yeah, it's definitely a very impressive debut. Kind of out of left field too.
Well, cool. So that's Mid '90s. That's in theaters right now. So check it out. Now we're gonna move on to the featured reviews. We have 4 feature reviews today, so we have a lot to talk about. And I don't know if there's any of the. There's one. Well, the last one we'll do. All 4 of us have seen, but other than the other 3. We haven't all seen them. So we're going to try to keep spoilers to a very, very minimum and just talk about our general thoughts with these movies. I'm pretty excited to talk about the first one. So up first is A Star is Born. Brief plot summary. A musician helps a young singer find fame, even as age and alcoholism send his own career into a downward spiral. This was the directorial debut of Bradley Cooper, and it stars Lady Gaga, Bradley Cooper, and Sam Elliott. And it's also the 4th version of the same movie. So it's a remake of the 1937 movie, and the 1954 movie, and the 1976 movie, and this is the new 2018 movie. So I want to pass this over to Sean first. Sean, what were your first general thoughts about A Star is Born?
Yeah, I really liked the movie. I thought it was just such a beautiful love story for me. It's the relationship between Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga is just like so authentic on screen, and these moments that just play out in kind of really long scenes just between these two characters is just so beautiful and brilliantly performed by both sides. Both Bradley Cooper, who we know is a incredible actor, and Lady Gaga, who's also does an amazing job in this movie.
Yeah, I thought her performance was very natural. It was just like, it felt very real right from the get-go.
Yeah, it was like the music was incredible. I've listened to that song several times over the last month or so since I saw it. It's one of those songs that I had a hard time getting out of my head. It's and like that the scene that is kind of in all the trailers, and that the build up to that scene is just so powerful and beautiful, and yeah.
Brandon, you saw it after Sean did. What were your general thoughts about the movie?
I mean, I agree with most everything you guys said, and I was also pretty impressed with the cinematography of the movie as well. Like right from the get-go, when Bradley Cooper is on stage and they're doing all these really tight shots on his fingers and strumming, and really focusing on the band on stage, it looks so real and gritty, almost like a documentary crew is on stage with them filming. And getting all these really good live shots. It's so believable, all their performances. And
that was Matthew Libatique who shot it, who did Black Swan and The Wrestler and Darren Aronofsky, all Darren Aronofsky movies.
Ooh. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no wonder it's amazing shaky cam, I guess is his specialty, close-up shaky cam. Yeah, that was really great. I could easily be up for an Oscar in that category as well. I was loving this movie for most of it, and I guess for me, the third act just it didn't tank by any means, but for me, the third act just slowly dwindled a little bit in my enjoyment. It took a few things. It was weird. It was being super reserved in some aspects, and then all of a sudden there was a few parts where it was taking it too far, and I was getting really frustrated by the direction they were taking their connection once Lady Gaga's career takes a turn, and then the ending really kind of pissed me off, and I thought it was a little bit cheap and forced. I know a lot of people were crying all over the place, but it did not connect to me at all, and it kind of came out of nowhere for me. And so I really liked most of this film, and for me it's too bad that the ending didn't follow through.
Yeah, I think the movie does have kind of two pretty distinct parts to it. The first part is them building their relationship, and then the second part is them kind of dealing with their fame and dealing with their relationship. And I do think maybe in the middle somewhere, maybe halfway through the movie, it starts getting a little slow. I didn't really know where the movie was going, but for me, the end, by the time you actually get to the ending, I feel like they treated his kind of his depression, or his the way he's dealt with the things in his life throughout the movie actually really worked for me. And I thought the way it dealt with his depression and maybe mental illness, addiction and everything, I thought was really, really well done.
Yeah, I mean, I thought a lot of, whether or not you like the ending, I thought the whole movie hinged on if you really bought into how much they loved each other. It was a romance beyond anything else. And And for me at least, I was 100% in. Like, I just was 100% in on their relationship, and I really liked how it developed. How, I mean, we all saw it coming. It's a classic movie tale where, this she's the up and coming star and he's the established star who's aging and will inevitably go downhill. And I thought the way they handled her rise and wanting to still be with him no matter what, and even trying to like bring him up with her as all he's doing is like bringing her down, is, I thought it was like really well done. And
it was subtle too. It was like I watched a little bit about some of the other A Star Is Born movies, and in some of those clips you can see the actors just getting really melodramatic, and the drama is right there on screen. But I really felt like this movie was very reserved and really subtle in how it was dealing with that drama and how the people were dealing with what they were going through.
I thought it went back and forth, but on the note of them doing it well, I really liked the scene kind of when it all comes out, but it's so subtle. When he, his first major scene of jealousy, and then she kind of ends up like pushing cake into his face, or wait, he pushes cake into her face in the hotel room, and she just laughs it off and moves on, and no one ends up like yelling at each other. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about, but I thought that was like really subtle.
They did it in a way where they called back of an earlier scene, and they turned it into a really sweet moment. Like in any other film, that would have been a huge dramatic fight. But that was one thing for me where it was like, no, she like absolutely loves this man. Like she loves him so much that she's able to kind of brush off his negativity and remember that they're actually cute together. So I mean, I loved this movie. Like I was pretty skeptical about it going in, just because the trailer was a little too cheesy for me, and for me it was like they had that moment in the trailer where he's like, I just want to get one last look at you, and she's like, oh, and I was like, that's not good, and then in the trailer,
and they made that make sense in the movie because he's like super drunk like that whole night and morning.
Yeah.
So like it kind of works more in the context of the movie than it did in that trailer.
Right. Well, I mean, everything is context, and then and then Lady Gaga starts singing, and it's great, and like all of that is in the trailer. But I mean, like I got like so emotionally connected in all of that. Like their first night hanging out, where he's drunk, but I mean she's high on all of it too. Like, and they're singing in the parking lot, and they're just connecting over everything. And that one last look is cheesy, but it's like it is sweet. And then you see it all in the trailer. I mean, I don't really want to get too much in spoilers, but he brings her up on stage, and it's this huge moment for her, and it's like the culmination of everything in her whole life, and you don't even know her, but you can just feel it. And I probably cried in that scene harder than I've cried in like any movie ever. Like, I know it's weird to say because it was like a happy scene, but like tears were straight up just pouring down my face, like dripping onto my lap. I was just like bawling with like this, like, I don't know, I something snapped in me, and I just like I lost it and was just so emotional in that movie. And yeah, I just thought it was really powerful. And so yeah, I mean, maybe the first half was better than the second half, but I was a kind of I bought in on their relationship, and I was just in, just in on this movie. So that's A Star Is Born. You can still catch it in theaters now. The next movie that we're going to talk about is the new Halloween, which is a sequel to the 1978 movie Halloween. Not to be confused by the other sequel, Halloween 2, or the other Halloween sequels, or Halloween H2O, or the Rob Zombie Halloweens. This Halloween is a direct sequel to the 1978 movie. So, brief plot summary. Laurie Strode confronts her longtime foe, Michael Myers, the masked figure who has haunted her since she narrowly escaped his killing spree on Hollywood Night 4 years ago. It's directed by David Gordon Green and stars Jamie Lee Curtis, Judy Greer, and Andy Bechkick. Anyway, so I want to bring this over to Derek right away. Derek, tell me about Halloween.
Yeah, I loved this movie so much. And I do think there's truth to the fact that when we see movies in that Dolby theater, I think it automatically adds like a star to whatever it is. Like, I've never had a bad time in that movie theater. It's just like,
I probably would have given A Star Is Born 5 stars if I saw that in the Dolby theater.
Yeah, I watched Solo there and just had like the best time ever at the theaters.
God, gross.
It's so
Like
again,
Bohemian Rhapsody. Like, I think we should all go see Bohemian Rhapsody and just give it.
it's gonna be our
reviews.
favorite movie of the year.
Yeah.
Across the board, 5 stars.
But honestly, like, I loved this movie so much. I thought I don't really have anything to nitpick about it. I don't know. Like, I feel like they did everything right, like the way that a sequel should be done, and not just, I don't know, horror sequels are weird because it's hard to figure out what is authentic and what is like, it's just like horror movies make money generally. And so like there's just a ton of horror sequels because they're really easy to make. This one I feel like was probably really hard to make. It feels like they didn't take any easy approach to making this movie work. Like when you bring back a iconic actress or actor to a role, I feel like more often than not, it just doesn't feel right. They don't fit properly in the movie. I think Jamie Lee Curtis fit perfectly in this movie. I believed everything. I thought there was a cool direction to take her character. I like the idea of like this, like PTSD driven like mom who's just dedicated. Like she can't get this out of her head. Yeah, grandma. And like she's the crazy old grandma that like is still obsessing over this night, but it's like, I don't know, it kind of makes sense. It's like, yeah, like it's nuts. I don't know.
Yeah, I totally hear what you're saying. Like they kind of they had enough callbacks to the original where it was like a sequel because they pulled some of the same tricks as the original, but they were like aware of what they were doing and subverted your expectations with it. And also like, it was very aware of the time period too. Like there's a character in the movie at some point who says, much worse things happen all the time. Like, why is she still hung up on this thing that happened in the 70s when it was just like, okay, so some guy killed her her friends and family, but like, like this happens like all the time now in America. So what's the big deal? And
Right.
I mean, I would say the movie shows you why it's a big deal because Michael Myers is scary as fuck. So
Yeah, and they do, like, they lay a really solid foundation to, it sounds like a lot of people don't like those two characters that the movie kind of starts out with, the podcasters. But I actually really like that whole little storyline that they build into that first 20 minutes of the movie, because it lays a solid foundation of, like, what this world is like. Michael Myers is in this creepy freaking facility, and like they add this weird mysticism to him, where they just like where they're kind of taunting him out on the courtyard, and I don't even know what's happening, but all the people around them start going crazy and like screaming and stuff, and I think this movie was genuinely very scary, and it doesn't really have any jump scares, maybe one or two. I can't think of any that stand out as big jump scares. There's a lot of, it's a lot of just like tone and a lot of just creepy moments. Like the gas station scene is genuinely really scary, I think. He's like, when he first starts killing people, and he gets his mask and all that stuff. And I think they did a really good job at not taking any easy way through this movie.
yeah. One thing that I thought was really interesting about the movie was how, like with the podcasters, they're trying to figure out Michael Myers, and then there's like the doctor who's trying to figure out Michael Myers, and they've made so many sequels all about Michael Myers, and they've made Rob Zombie's made his Michael Myers movies, and it's like, what is the fascination with Michael Myers? And Laurie Strode is kind of just like, well, he's the boogeyman. He's just like this scary guy who kills for no reason. And there isn't anything more to him than that. He just kills. And it's like, okay, that's kind of boring. That's kind of like uninteresting. Like, okay, he's just a guy who kills. Okay, what's the interest in that? And I don't know. After this movie, I decided that that is so much more interesting, that that is a true boogeyman, and that guy could be out there. Like there could be just fucking crazy people who just kill, and he could just go into your house and kill you. And that is like killing for nonsensical, no reason. Like that's so much scarier in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And, I don't know. I bumped this movie up half a star. Like I think I initially gave it 3.5, and I bumped it up to 4 because I started just like seeing Michael Myers in the dark. Like I just started seeing him outside my window and in my living room, like at night when I was going to the bathroom, and like, yep. He might not be the literal like boogeyman, but like the concept of him being like a boogeyman that just kills people. Yeah, no, that's scary. That's fucked up. I'm done.
So I actually watched the first movie for Halloween 80s or 78, and I finished it an hour before I went to see this Halloween, and that was actually, I'm really glad I did, because there were so many clever callbacks to the original Halloween, and not in like cheesy kind of saying the tagline from the first movie, and like you're terminated, fucker type of line. The callbacks were all very subtle, and it was mimicking shots from the first movie, and but switching it up in a really clever way that I really enjoyed for this one.
It had like an old kind of feel to it. I think that goes with them like mimicking or trying to figure out John Carpenter's like style that he defined with that first movie. I feel like, I don't know, this whole movie kind of felt out of time. Like it didn't feel like a 2018 movie. Like it was kind of grainy and shot very similarly.
Well, there aren't too many slashers nowadays, too, either. Like,
well, that's true. That's the other thing is, I haven't seen like a great slasher that isn't
like supernatural. Like it is supernatural,
right?
And,
or like I was trying to think of like the only other slasher I can think of in the last 10 years is like You're Next. But even that, it's so gimmick based. Like it's a great movie, but it's all about one specific like gimmick, as opposed to just a scary person with a knife, And I think this movie just did that. It like you said, like it brought
Hush.
It made but Hush is also entirely gimmick based. It's all about from a perspective of a deaf and mute person.
Yeah, true.
And so. I don't know. I think it is just a sign of the times. It is hard to make this scary when literally everything else is scarier. But I think they kind of figured it out how to do it in this movie. And I think all the characters are really great. Like I mentioned, Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yeah, she was fantastic in this movie.
She's really great in this. And I think everyone just felt really fleshed out. Like, I don't know, even the side characters just felt like people. The babysitter chick and like the little kid she was babysitting. I don't know, like everything was just, and they had some good humor. And for me, just everything clicked in this movie.
So will this be in your top 10? since you liked it better than Apostle?
I don't know that I liked it more than Apostle. I think it's probably more it's more perfected of a film when compared side by side.
Whoa.
But that doesn't necessarily mean I like it more.
Okay.
Great. So that's Halloween. And that's still in theaters now. So the next movie is First Man. Brief plot summary. A look at the life of the astronaut Neil Armstrong and the legendary space mission that led him to become the first man to walk on the moon on July 20th, 1969. This is directed by Damien Chazelle and stars Ryan Gosling, Claire Foy, and Jason Clarke. So I didn't see this movie. Just want to put it out there, so I don't have anything to say. And I think we're going to go to Sean first on this one.
Yeah, so this movie is actually as much about kind of the start and the development of the American space program as it is about the actual Apollo 11 mission where they landed on the moon. It actually starts even before the Gemini program and kind of explores the whole kind of development of the space race at the time. It goes into like Neil Armstrong going up in Apollo 8 and doing the first docking mission, and even before that when he was testing kind of the first orbital space flights and stuff like that, or suborbital space flights. So it's a very interesting historical movie, and it gets into quite a bit of detail as to what the people actually went through and what they had to do and all the problems they had to solve and challenges they had to overcome in order to actually get to the moon, to put someone on the moon. But the movie, like, it doesn't portray this history as kind of a triumph of the human spirit or the bravery of the astronauts. It's not like some kind of over the top glorification of the space program. It brings it right down to earth, and it really shows you how terrifying it is to actually be in one of these basically giant bombs with a capsule attached to the top of it, and being shot off into space. He does a great job of showing you how terrifying these machines actually are.
He treats it like it's a suicide mission as a filmmaker.
Yeah, and it was,
which is amazingly unique to see.
For sure. And like the sound design and the cinematography and everything works so well to just make you feel like you're in there and to just be absolutely terrified to be in this capsule with these people. Like, even just stepping into the capsule, they're sitting there and it's quiet, and they're just sitting there on the launch pad, and you can hear the creaking of the rocket as it kind of shifts in the wind, and you can hear like metal clanking, and it's it really brings the whole thing right down to earth. But I also don't feel like it really got too bogged down in the details of what they were doing. I really felt like it was always moving, and it was always very exciting and thrilling, and horrifying what they were going through. And yeah, it just really kept the movie going for me. But it was also very emotional. Like, there were some great emotional moments throughout the movie that really kind of illuminated who this person was. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but what Damien Chazelle does throughout this film is genius filmmaking. Every single one of their test flights, as you've already stated, is absolutely incredible. You're just holding your breath, and I was so shocked at the angle he took at showing these astronauts going through these different testing procedures and different flights. it like the forethought it took to decide to shoot your subjects in that rough of a light is just amazing, because I've never seen that before in anything.
Yeah.
One thing I missed and I wish he had gone for was to show a little bit more of the like isolation. Like I wish he had taken some time to just show them like sitting on their asses for, days on end.
Yeah.
Because everything else was so vivid and real and anxiety ridden, and even those quiet moments could have been the same. So
Just
I wish he
like
had added that
dealing with the
perspective.
boredom of the 4-day journey to the moon, or
Yeah, in that tiny little capsule. But anyways, I don't want to tell him what to do. On top of that, I was a little bit, to just throw my negative out there, I was a little bit bored of the home life antics, just because the rest of it was so good. And it's not like any of the home life stuff was bad, but I just wish there was so much like creativity in the other side of it, that I think the stuff at home, besides the like super strong performances, didn't have too much unique angle going on with all that stuff. So to me, that half or maybe third of the movie was just a little bland, and I wished he had either just got rid of it or spiced it up somehow with a different angle. And then right up until the ending, just holy fuck, the landing on the moon is really remarkable. And I don't know. Yeah, I think you said it pretty well, Sean. Yeah, I applaud Damien Chazelle for this film.
I haven't ever had an experience like this before in a movie where like those details feel so authentic and so accurate that what's the docking mission? Is that Apollo 8?
Yeah, the docking mission.
Like-
No, that was Gemini 8.
Gemini 8. Like when they're in like once they're like out and they're like in space, like there's a moment there where I was just like, oh, so this is what it feels like to be in space. Like it felt so real, and I personally was so claustrophobic in that moment. Like it's pretty magical what they were able to do. They even like
They're just looking out the window, like as if you would do that in your car
Right.
to try to find something.
right,
Yeah.
They're just like, oh, where is it? We're like, where are we supposed to dock? I wonder when we'll see it.
like, and that's
they have no idea if they're going to see
yeah,
it.
because
Right.
like they're just they're flying up there and they're trying to get to this other ship that launched like maybe an hour before they did, and they're trying to catch up to it. And they're just like doing the math on a piece of paper, like trying to figure out, do we need to speed up? Do we
Yeah,
need
he
to slow
literally
down?
has
Like
a pen
we
in
should
his
be able to
hand.
see it. And they're just like looking out the window. All right, I hope this, we should be in the area. We should be able to see it soon. And they're just looking out the window for this thing. Whereas like there's not even any radar. There's not like, there's nothing there.
And you just feel, like you just said, Derek, you're just like, holy shit, they are in empty space. And you just have that feeling that you've never really had before.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's kind of like a stoner moment that people express all the time, but you're just like, whoa.
yeah.
Like I've never actually, like my insides actually feel this.
Yeah. And it's just, I think it's just,
I'm not going to space either. This is the same thing with Free Solo. I'm just like, yeah, nope, fuck that. I'm not going to space. I'm fine with that.
it's really fun to see filmmakers at work that are clearly so much smarter than you as an audience member. It's like there's all this deliberate stuff that's just like jammed into this movie that are so fast you don't even notice them. But like they have a full shot of just like screws in the side of like their capsule that they're in. Like
Or the condensation on the window dripping down.
It's just like all these
for
things
half
that
a
when you're
second shot.
yeah, exactly. It's all these things that if you're sitting in that seat and you're just like waiting to be in space, like these are the things you're going to be looking at as a rocket's exploding 10 feet behind your head and shooting you at, however fast it is. Like these are the things that you're going to be noticing that nobody else would ever even think of looking at or would even take these things into account except for those people in those seats, and they're able to capture that and relay it to the audience. That's crazy to me. Like, how I can't even like I don't even know how they came up with something like that. Like, I need a
There's
shot of
this
the
one
screws.
brilliant shot where they're walking down the like hallway to get into the spaceship, and the camera pans out one of the small windows for such a quick amount of time, and you see off of the distance another like space launch start going
I
up,
think that's the same one,
and then it
right?
pans back to the actors walking down the
Yeah,
hallway.
that's the Gemini 8 mission. They were,
So that's the rocket that they're chasing.
yeah.
right?
Oh, right.
Yeah, and then
That's
it like,
really cool.
because
Yeah,
it like
yeah.
looks,
But it's such a quick
Yeah.
throwaway, like.
but it like looks, the camera looks
shot.
up first and you can see all the lights moving and like you
Yeah.
can see everything shaking, and then it pans out the window and there's just another rocket launching on another pad. And then it's
Yeah,
just,
this movie has better cinematography and throwaway like 2-second shots than entire films like strive for in just one moment.
yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Oh, I was to say about the home life. I completely disagree with Brandon. Like, all that stuff landed so well for me, and it really like brought home. I think that may be part of the message of this movie, if there is one, or what we learned from the space race, which is literally like it's just these brilliant people that are just like banking on their brilliance for their survival in all of these like these scenarios that weren't they're none of them are fully tested, none of them are foolproof, and it's just these like cocky guys that think they're so smart, and they are so smart, but they just think that they can do it faster than the next guy. I don't know. I think that all gets driven home really well with the home life stuff.
Also on an emotional level, to like really understand what Neil Armstrong was going through, and him struggling with his home life, as well as with the stress of the space program. Like, I thought that worked really well, the dynamic of the two, and kind of and I also think it's as much about the sacrifice of not just of the astronauts, but of the families, and like what it asked the question several times, like, what are we doing? Why are we sacrificing our lives for this? And which could also potentially destroy the people we love the most. And I thought it dealt with that question really well.
There's this last weekend, there was a full moon out. I don't know if you guys saw it. But I was out pretty late. And I definitely like looked up at the moon, saw how big it was, and like took a good long pause. And first band definitely had a big impact on me in the way I like think about that kind of stuff. And yeah, it was just pretty interesting sitting there and like staring up at the moon for a minute or two.
Yeah, and so I recently looked it up, and I guess parts of this movie were shot on 16 millimeter and parts of it were shot on 35 millimeter. But then I assume it was the moon stuff was actually shot on 70 millimeter.
Did you guys not see
I did
it on
see.
IMAX?
I saw it on Limax, but I wish.
No,
I kind of wish
saw
I'd
it on.
seen it.
Limax? Is that what they nickname it now?
It's the AMC IMAX, just in their theaters. It's still a really big screen.
So nothing changed then
The
for
aspect
you.
ratio did change.
For the
Yeah.
ending?
Yeah,
Okay,
it has
good.
the same aspect ratio. It's a much bigger screen, but it doesn't have the resolution or the brightness or the It's
He kind of directs the IMAX movie in a way like a cheesy 80s movie would direct like a 3D technology, where they like throw a like ball into the camera so like you feel like it's going to hit you in the face. That moment at the end, but it worked so well. Like usually when you see, Dunkirk or a Christopher Nolan film, like just big scenes just happen to be in IMAX, then it cuts back. But like the moment he cuts into IMAX, it's so purposeful and planned out, and you just gasp when it happens. It's really creative.
Wow, I wish I saw it on IMAX.
Yeah.
I wish I saw it at the Boeing
mean-
IMAX theater.
Yeah.
Like, do you want me to tell you what happened? Maybe we'll do that after.
I mean, I'm sure. Wait, it's not different, right? It's just a.
It's just
You mean
how
tell
it
me what
changes.
happened?
How and when.
We'll talk about it after.
So Damien Chazelle is gonna be up for Best Director and Best Picture again, right?
I would
Yeah.
hope so, yeah.
Though this movie has been waning a little bit critically.
Yeah.
You know, just critically, it wasn't like as crazy strong as people thought it
Yeah.
would be the month before.
And also, did it make a lot of money?
Yeah, it was kind of a weird, floppy, like, big movie. I don't know how big it was budgeted, but I think people, it's Damien Chazelle. He's like one of those hot directors right now.
Yeah.
I think it would be like the big movie of the year, but it just kind of flopped out into the theaters.
I definitely
Sat
wasn't
there.
expecting Venom to do so well in this movie I don't know if it necessarily flopped because it
It's not
I think
like
it had a
flop, but
budget
it's
of
not
like $60 million and it's made
38.
it's made 38 domestic, but it has made like 75 million worldwide. So it's not, it's not losing a ton of money.
I know, but we're
It'll be
too
up for a
early
shit ton of
We're too
awards.
early to talk about awards, really, because so much of it is like what sticks around and like kind of what people are still gonna be talking about in January and February. So it just box office alone, though, it's kind of like, well, hopefully it sticks around. Hopefully people are still talking about it. And I mean, you guys certainly loved it, but we're just gonna have to see if people are still gonna be talking about it come when awards time is really kicking in.
I really
really
hope
kind of
so.
depends on the other movies that come out and if other movies kind of take more attention away from it.
For sure. It's yeah. This guy's career is crazy so far.
Yeah, and it's such a different movie from both La La Land
last-
La La Land.
and Whiplash.
Just slightly.
Just a little. It's not very. It's his first non-jazz based film.
Yeah,
That's the most you can say about its difference.
So anyway,
It doesn't have jazz.
so let's
in it.
move on to the next movie. That movie was First Man, still in theaters now, and clearly you guys recommend seeing it in IMAX or the biggest screen that you can see it in. So we have one more movie we're going to talk about, and I think we're going to do a spoiler section for it, because all four of us have seen this one. I'm talking about Bad Times at the El Royale. So, brief plot summary. Circa 1968, several strangers, most with a secret to bury, meet by chance at Lake Tahoe's El Royale, a rundown hotel with a dark past. Over the course of one night, everyone will show their true colors before everything goes to hell. This was written and directed by Drew Goddard, his first film since Cabin in the Woods, which was his only film since then, and stars Jeff Bridges, Cynthia Ervino, Dakota Johnson, John Hamm, and Chris Hemsworth. So I think Brandon should start this off because he definitely liked it the most.
Yeah, I loved this movie. It's an awesome like 90s mix of like Robert Rodriguez and the Coen brothers and Quentin Tarantino. It's just got like it's wearing its style on its sleeve in every aspect. Like in the cinematography, in the set design, in the way these actors perform and their kind of kooks and quirks of their individual characters. And also the way the like movie kind of meanders. It's really long. It's like it's exactly 2 hours and 22 minutes. But for me, I felt like had so much going on and the pace kept up and there was so much just to look at and enjoy that I never once got bored. The way this movie develops over the course of the night with this cast of very unique, I think 7 strangers that all meet in this hotel in near Lake Tahoe, California. They all kind of have different backstories of why they're there and what kind of like seediness they're actually up to. And also the hotel in itself has a huge background that you learn about throughout the film.
Yeah.
It reminded me a lot of Three Billboards Last Year. This movie has so many great moments. There, specifically, there was a couple, like Nick, you mentioned in A Star Is Born, where you were just like bawling your eyes out at like being happy. I wasn't necessarily like bawling my eyes out, but there was a few like moments in this movie where my heart was just like racing so much with joy of what the filmmaker was like showing us on screen. And I think we are going to get into spoilers, so we'll talk about that more towards the end.
I'm so
But,
curious on what
yeah,
you're
there's-
talking about.
Yeah.
I'm like,
There's just moments in this
of
film-
joy in this movie. Like,
There's moments of filmmaking joy in this film that like I haven't felt. I felt like a high schooler watching like a Kill Bill for the first time. It was just so great and fun. So that's what I thought. All right, let's hear about why you guys all hated it.
Drew Goddard's is amazing. I think like everything he's touched has been really great. He's been a really prolific writer. He's done a lot of big TV shows. He wrote like The Martian. He's worked with J.J. Abrams on a bunch of stuff. And Cabin in the Woods is like one of my all-time favorites. So I was so excited going into this movie. I couldn't imagine anything less than like Cabin in the Woods level of movie coming from this guy. And I think
those are like
maybe
extremely high expectations. Like,
it is
might
really
be-
high.
It might be partly expectations why we weren't so riveted by this movie.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and it might be better on another watch for me if I give it some time, to give it a couple years, go back and check it out. But
It might be better in Dolby Atmos too.
maybe
Well, everything's better in Dolby Atmos. Obviously.
yeah, it's true. By the way, I found another Dolby Atmos in Woodinville. They added one.
Yeah.
But anyways, I think maybe for me it probably meandered a little too much. You kind of forget like that you're watching this movie sometimes. Like it gets so bogged down in conversations and stuff. For me at least, and I kind of assumed like it seemed so high concept that there was it was leading to like this thing that was gonna blow my mind. Again, it's like expectations, but then it just didn't. And then it just kind of ended. And
Those are two different types of expectations. There's like the expectation of Drew Goddard giving you like another Cabin in the Woods. You know, like
Yeah.
that's an expectation before the movie. But like I'm
Right.
with you. There's like another expectation in the movie that's like the movie makes you believe that it's building to an ultimate like crazy sort of like something huge is going to happen.
right.
And like I don't know. Like
It kind of breaks that moment that we're expecting to come in like the third act. It kind of breaks it into these little chunks. It sprinkles it throughout the movie, I think. And I think that's maybe why it doesn't work so well for me.
I
know,
guess
it's-
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I guess for me, like, I would say there was nothing in this movie that I disliked. I thought everything was really well done, from performances to plot to you know, like how the story unfolds. I guess if I had one qualm with the movie, it's like it probably could have been cut down a bit. I did think it was a little too long and meandering, especially kind of in the second half. I was really drawn in to the first half of the movie. And then it just kind of, I guess it didn't build to something that kept the pace up, and it just kind of kept the same meandering pace, but it wasn't drawing me in with kind of the mystery of who these characters were and why they were there. And
well, I feel like we're beating around the ending, like, and we're beating around the movie just a little too much here. So let's just go into spoilers and we can like really like hash it out. So from here on forward, we're gonna be talking about spoilers for Bad Times at the El Royale. Turn it off if you don't want to be spoiled. Spoilers are happening for Bad Times at the El Royale.
So that opening shot, like, immediately had me with that just long, like, wide angle of the hotel room and the guy burying the treasure, all the way up to that gunshot. Like, that is such a well staged and
Nick
thought out
Offerman.
introduction to the film.
Yeah, that was my favorite scene in the movie, I think.
Yeah, that was a great scene. I don't really know where to go with this. So Brandon, tell me, so when you're talking about filmatic joy, you're not really talking about what's happening in the movie. You're talking about like the style and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess. I mean, I think at the moment I'm talking about is in the climax of the film when she leans over and asks the young hotel, front desk boy to grab the gun and use it. And out of nowhere, he looks at the camera. He's like, I can't do it. And she's like, why can't you do it? And he admits that because he's killed like 147 people and he can't kill another person. And you kind of realize at that exact moment why he's the character he is and why he's, shooting up heroin in a hotel in the middle of nowhere, why he's like, he has fucking PTSD and he's a really troubled like human. And that smash cut to me, like I like threw my hands in front of my mouth. I gasped. I was like laughing ecstatically with joy at just how amazing that moment was. And that cut to the Vietnam War. Yeah. And yeah, my whole theater was like giddy. Did you guys not feel that at all?
No, I really liked that moment. that was pretty incredible.
People in my theater were reacting. People in my theater were reacting bit like vocally, just like you.
Yeah, it was like, oh,
I didn't like that moment.
Me neither.
Yeah, that to me was like, okay, one too many things.
That's the exact thought that went through my head. I was like, another what?
Yeah,
Are you kidding me
like,
right now?
Okay, here we go. It's great.
There's a couple reasons.
Like the 10th flashback.
It was his only flashback. Like we've seen a flashback for every character, and we were waiting for his flashback. Or we didn't necessarily know he was a key piece of the puzzle, so we assumed he wasn't going to get one until that moment. And it was the last one we got, and it was the most important one of the film. And I thought that's why it worked for me, and that's why it wasn't just like, oh, this is like there another one. It's like, no, there's this many characters, and we get to see everybody's flashback.
It's just a weird way to structure like that character's story, I think, because yeah, he's such a side character that I don't really think a whole lot about him throughout the movie. And so when they jump to that scene, I'm not ready to care about him. Like I don't think they didn't do, for me at least, I didn't think they did enough to earn a big reaction to that. It's like jumping to a side character's backstory isn't for me. It didn't feel important.
I guess
didn't understand why we were doing that.
For me, I was a little bit like I was almost surprised because like I think throughout the whole movie I saw him as a side character or a background character, but then like thinking about it, he has so many great scenes throughout the movie, like and everyone. Having so what is this, a perv hotel type thing? And he has to explain to like several different characters what he's doing. And he plays a really fun role or an interesting role throughout the whole movie. And then to kind of, in the end, it turn out that he is a main character and he is important to the plot. I thought that worked for me. It was kind of almost like how Brendan said, it was kind of like a twist.
Right.
In the end.
Yeah, there was just a lot of twists throughout the whole movie.
Yeah, that was that movie.
And that, like, it was just, I don't know, I felt like with each twist, it, like, let out dramatic tension for me. It's like from when she hits him in the face with the bottle, and then, like, 2 scenes later, he's just, like, outside in the car with her, like, yeah, well, you hit me in the face with the bottle, it's no big deal. Just...
Fair enough.
Just slowly, the tension just kept, like, dwindling and escaping, and I don't know. You guys are talking about these you guys are talking about these flashbacks, and I honestly thought the flashbacks were some of the weakest parts of the movie. Like, I didn't think a lot of them worked that well, and like I don't think they helped me get to know the characters that much better. And the characters, I thought all the characters were really simple and flat, and that's why I thought it was too long. Like, not because it was meandering and there was a lot of dialogue, just because I don't know, I just didn't really feel like I got to know anyone too well. And so I just kept being like, okay, when's this gonna wrap up? Because I just kind of got done hanging out with him.
I 100% agree with that.
So the bottle scene, oh, we don't have to go over it. It worked for me stylistically, but how did you guys feel about the other like big moment with the seeming kidnapping in the bedroom earlier on?
It was really
and the first shotgun.
It was really surprising and awesome when John Hamm got killed, but I was also extremely disappointed because he was the most interesting character.
Yeah,
I was like really excited about where he was going to go with him being an FBI agent and like how he was going to fit into the whole puzzle of all of this. I was like, what's going to happen with him? And then he died.
The answer is nothing.
Yeah, the answer is just nothing. Okay.
Did anyone piece together what he was actually
not
doing
nothing.
there?
It does. Yeah,
Okay,
totally. Like his reveal still comes later, even though he dies earlier.
But they don't do anything with his reveal, though, either. It's also just like, okay, well...
No, they throw it in
JFK,
the fire and leave it.
There's footage of JFK probably, like, at the El Royale. That's interesting, except it's also not interesting because they just kind of throw it away.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
But why was... I guess I still don't understand, because, like... It was the guy at the hotel, the guy running the hotel who actually filmed it. So what were all those like recording devices? I guess they So who were the clients? And like, I guess it was just all separate. It was
it's like
there
a
was the
CD
FBI,
hotel
there's all these other
where a
people.
lot of things are being recorded. Like a lot of people are going through the hotel and they're unknowingly being filmed. Mm-hmm. So it's probably more people than JFK. I mean, it might not even be JFK. That's just what it felt like they were implying it was JFK.
Yeah.
But it could have been, like, I think they were also implying that there were probably a lot of other politicians and famous people going through the hotel and doing really seedy things and being filmed unknowingly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was they were talking about how it was like a big party spot, like in years past. And all the like high rollers used to hang out there on their way through.
What did you guys think of the Chris Hemsworth coming in to the movie at the end?
It was pretty awesome. It reminded me of the best.
Yeah. He was like my favorite actor in the movie.
Who was a better actor, Chris Hemsworth or Chris Hemsworth Chris Hemsworth's abs?
Like,
did he ever have his shirt buttoned up?
I don't think so.
His character was so, like, the way he was acting in that movie was so fascinating. Mm-hmm. Like, I was just, like, completely just engaged with, like, his little mannerisms and, like, his inability to be interested in anything he was talking about. And, like, I don't know, it's just so fascinating. He's, like, it was a weird character. And I don't know, I loved him. I thought that was great. Everything with him was great. I'm not sure how well I thought it actually fit, but it kind of felt like too little too late for me. Like, it didn't, it was cool when it happened, but I didn't think it connected enough with, like, the last 2 hours of the movie for it to be warranted as a big finale.
Yeah, I just don't see that, because this whole movie is such a stylized, like, adventure. To say, like, one of these, I mean, you guys are just saying, like, nothing fit, when I guess there's just nothing you can do about that when you're having a movie that's just this far out there and having this much fun with its writing. But it's like it's kind of just like all or nothing with what he was going for.
I think this movie's probably similar. It'll probably be looked at similarly as, like, maybe a movie like Donnie Darko, where it's like, when you watch it, it's almost impossible to really understand what happened. And it's going to take me at least viewing it a couple times to like, for these things, everything feels right. It feels like so, like there's so much time put into it and it's so carefully made that like it can't be this shallow, right? But
Well,
maybe
why
I just
can't it be,
missed
though? I don't.
because I guess I don't believe that Drew Goddard would make something like that.
I don't know how it's any more or less shallow than any other good film like that you gave 5 stars, like Halloween. I mean, the depth of the like filmmaking and the depth of the style is there. I don't know what else you need from a storyline
I need
besides
characters. I need like
all
a plot that goes somewhere.
Yeah,
like,
I need to be connected to
I don't
this movie
need
in
just
some
style. Like you're just saying, like over and over that it's just.
I don't think it was just
style,
that. I
man.
think
plot goes there was
Yeah,
everywhere.
definitely
it goes
more.
everywhere. I don't need.
I
like-
do think
I don't know.
I do think that rather than it being about like so like a Star is Born, it's just about two people and their relationship, and it dives hard into just those two people. This one is about what was it, 6 or 7 people or 8 people if you include like Chris Hemsworth, and it's a maybe it doesn't get super in depth. It doesn't go nearly as in depth as like A Star is Born, but it does like give an interesting perspective for each one of the characters, and it's about how those characters are coming together and how they're interacting with each other and kind of what that means, like thematically, how these characters are coming together. I think, and I think there's some very interesting stuff that it was playing with that.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I know I sound like I'm like totally hating on this movie, and like I really didn't even think it was like a bad movie. I just like I gave it 3 stars because it finished, and I was like, okay, like I enjoyed that. It's a little long, but yeah, that was good. I just like me and Shannon just kind of looked at each other. This was the first movie that we had been to that she's been to the theater for since our baby was born, and we were just like, okay, well, that was a movie. Okay, like we went home and my parents were like, how was the movie? And we were like, yeah, I mean, it was. I don't know. It was fine.
I am kind of the same way. Maybe I gave it like 3.5 stars, and I can kind of see maybe if I saw it again, I could probably bump it up to 4 stars, or maybe I could be convinced to bump it up a little bit. But it was like, I didn't really think about the movie too much afterwards. It was just a really fun kind of stylized experience with some interesting thematic elements to it, but it wasn't really in depth enough to make me think about it afterwards or make me gush about it. But yeah, I mean, I would definitely recommend it to just about anyone. I think it's a very easy movie to recommend to people. It's fun, it's funny, it's maybe a little long, but other than that, like it's just like the actors are, just really committing to their roles in a really fun way, and yeah, I did think it was a very entertaining movie.
Did you guys ever see August Osage County?
No.
Yeah, I saw that.
No.
Okay. Or so it really reminded me of these like which is really common on Broadway, like low budget plays where it's just a bunch of people hanging out in a house for 3 hours, or like Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. Like I've seen so many plays like this where just a bunch of random characters come together for some reason, and all of them are just dealing with so much shit. And then throughout the play, you realize how like intertwined it is. And so this was very much like a typical famous Broadway play that you would see, but just like injected with, I don't want to use the word style again, injected with having fun, I guess, with that. Not just melodrama, but fun drama.
Yeah, it almost kind of felt like a bottle episode, where it was like, how much creative things can we get out of this one location? Like what can we do to, like, with these random characters, this one location, bring them all together, see how they play off each other, like, and what creative things can we do with that?
And the location was pretty cool. I liked the set.
Yeah.
That was a pretty cool idea of having it be in both states, in California and Nevada, and it was pretty creative, the set.
So I have two like final thoughts. Kind of reiterating, I think that for me, this movie, my suspicion is that it was very much a victim of my expectations, and I bet it's gonna be a while before I rewatch it, just because I don't have super fond memories of it. But I bet it's something I'm going to like in the future when I can approach it with different expectations.
7
just
years
kind of
from now, you're
enjoy.
gonna be like, "Wow, that movie, Bad Times."
Yeah, well, even Brandon just describing like play, like that perspective, like makes more sense to me watching this. I bet you, I would probably enjoy it more just have like viewing it from that perspective, or just a different perspective, as opposed to like when's like that crazy half hour gonna kick in, like Cabin in the Woods, or when is all this like weird stuff going to culminate in the thing that's going to blow my mind, kind of thing. So yeah, I think I'll like it more, but for now it's very meh for me. But I will say, some effective filmmaking. I don't know if this is what he was going for or not, but because of the meandering feeling of this movie, there's the bottle scene when they're talking for so long, and I'm kind of starting to disengage a little bit. That when she hits me with the head with the bottle, this is the most afraid I've been in years. I literally, like, I yelled in the theater. I like almost dropped my candy. I was like, that scared the shit out of me.
Oh no. Your Twizzlers?
No, my
Your
milk duds.
Twizzlers.
Twizzlers, gross. Red vines.
Red vines.
Yeah, we're
Red
Vine
Vines.
family.
Yeah, it, like, I was kind of embarrassed. I was so loud, like so verbally shocked. And I was the only one. But yeah.
Well, so that was the month of October. We don't really have a preview section for the next month, but I know I'm excited about a few movies, and pay attention, keep an eye open for me and Derek's special horror movie month episode. And before we sign off, Brandon, where can people find you online?
You can find me at Letterboxd at Beb, and Instagram Brandon_Bulby.
And Sean, what about you?
You can find me at Letterboxd at Bulbinator.
Cool. And Derek?
Letterboxd at Chicken Tack.
Cool. I'm on Letterboxd as well. Mothman23. Remember, it's a fun way it's like social media, but for just movie lovers. So, I don't know. I love being able to follow you guys and follow other people and just write reviews and stuff. So, follow us on Letterboxd. Anyway, so with that, we'll see you next month. Thanks a lot for listening.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.